Joe Biden has been running for public office for 50 years.
In Delaware, Kayla Boggs, a Republican running for a third term, is facing defeat by young Joseph Biden, who will be 30 later this month.
I announce my candidacy for President of the United States of America.
Are you running for president?
I am running for president.
And you're going to take on Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and all other comers?
I'm going to be Joe Biden, and I'm going to try to be the best Biden I can be. If I can, I got a shot. If I can, I lose.
Plays well in South Carolina.
Is that an endorsement?
I don't want to hurt his chances.
For the last 13, I've had a front row seat.
Mike, you have the distinction, I should say, of being our NBC News Biden whisperer.
I don't know if it's appropriate to call you the Biden whisperer, but I feel like that's...
Anyway, Casey. Yep.
Mike Memley, you're the Biden whisperer. You were with him today.
As one of the NBC embedded reporters in the 2008 campaign, I sometimes covered the senator from Delaware as he ran for president for the second time.
I'm not running against Hillary Clinton. I'm running to lead the free world. I'm running to lead this country.
It didn't last long. But months after he left the White House race, Barack Obama brought him back in.
Mike Memley from NBC News and the National Journal's on the phone. He is following Senator Biden to the airport in Wilmington. And Mike, set the stage for us.
Well, we left the house just about 5 minutes ago. Senator Biden, with his whole family, his sons and as well as his daughter, in a huge motorcade.
I spent the next 2.5 months with Biden as he campaigned for vice president.
It's good to be home. An opportunity missed is not the same as an opportunity lost. Not yet. Not if we recognize the urgency of the moment.
Quickly, you could see this unlikely pairing forge a close bond, the polished and cool Illinois senator and his affable and occasionally off-script running mate.
If we're willing to reach deep down inside ourselves when we're tired, when we're discouraged...
Obama inspired huge crowds, while Biden connected one-on-one.
Reporters who had covered Obama throughout the campaign noted how much looser he seemed on the stump when Biden was at his side.
Their partnership deepened in the White House. Biden had a key role behind the scenes. Meanwhile, he lived up to his reputation for blunt talk.
With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey.
And why is that so?
Because not a single thing he said is accurate.
And the occasional gaffe. As a reporter for the Los Angeles Times, I traveled extensively with the vice president during his White House years, both at home in the re-election campaign and overseas to Europe, the Mideast, and Asia. Biden still talks often about his 2011 trip to meet with China's future president, Xi Jinping. Over that 5-day journey, I saw firsthand how Biden's view that all politics is personal plays out on the world stage.
I spent, up until the time we left, more time with Xi Jinping than any elected official, any world leader, to the best of my knowledge.
When Obama won his second term, Biden wasn't ruling out making another run for the White House himself.
The last time you're going to vote for yourself, you think?
No, I don't think so.
But Biden's eldest son, Beau, was diagnosed with brain cancer in 2013. He battled the disease for nearly 2 years, dying at the age of 46. For Biden, any campaign was on hold. Biden's grief played out in public. The Biden family patriarch seeing his family through another searing loss while he continued his obligations as vice president.
Beau Biden brought to his work a mighty heart. He brought to his family a mighty heart.
Speculation built each month that Biden might still run. But when I traveled with Biden and his grandchildren to the Women's World Cup that summer, it seemed clear that politics was taking a back seat.
Unfortunately, I believe we're out of time, the time necessary to mount a winning campaign for the nomination. But while I will not be a candidate, I will not be silent.
Biden would campaign hard for Hillary Clinton. But on the eve of Election Day, he sounded a cautionary note.
God willing, we're going to win this, but there's a lot of people who are going to vote for Donald Trump. We've got to figure out why.
Weeks after, I asked Biden what was going through his mind that night.
He said he still hoped Clinton would win, but he worried that the Democratic Party had begun to lose its connection with working and middle-class voters, voters he considered his base. He said he didn't sense any enthusiasm for the candidate. With Donald Trump in the White House, Biden had an unexpected chance to run again.
Sir, we're live on MSNBC right now, sir. Talk about what this means in terms of your political future here. Is this an audition for 2020?
And after months of will he or won't he he made the plunge.
We are in the battle for the soul of this nation.
And the questions began.
When are we going to hear from you? Come on, you guys, let's go.
Some he didn't always like, especially when it involved his debate performances and that clash with then rival Kamala Harris.
And it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. And, you know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
What about the census being at?
Pardon me?
You need to prepare more next time?
No. I just have to, well, we'll see next time.
Thanks, everyone.
When you follow one person around for more than a decade, you really get a sense of what makes them tick. And one great thing I've found covering Joe Biden is he often can't help but share his private thinking out loud.
Everybody knows I mean what I say. The problem is sometimes I say all that I mean.
Sometimes covering him this long meant being singled out.
What's coming out, and some of the national press are here, Mike Memley and others are here today.
Like that time Biden campaigned during Game 7 of the World Series.
You notice the MSNBC guy's got his Washington hat on back there. I called him earlier today and I said, I'll give you an hour and a half interview. He said, I can't do it tonight. I was only joking.
This campaign was no doubt unlike any Biden has been part of before. From running against more than 24 Democrats.
But Senator Harris is now offering a little bit more of her position on busing. She's saying that should be one tool in the toolbox. Do you think it was an unfair attack now that she seems to be in a similar position to what you were?
Let's just say I was surprised.
While also going toe-to-toe with President Trump.
President Trump was on Air Force One. He tweeted, watching Sleepy Joe Biden making a speech, so boring. The lamestream media will die in the ratings and clicks with this guy. It will be over for them. Not to mention the fact that our country will do poorly with him. It will be one big crash, but at least China will be happy. Do you want to respond to the president responding to you?
You should get a life.
Biden didn't draw the biggest crowds in the primaries. More than some, but not what Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, or Pete Buttigieg saw. But Biden relished the opportunities to connect one-on-one on the rope line, at a VFW hall.
There's $40 for everybody. Buy them around, okay?
Or perhaps his favorite campaign stop, and mine for that matter, Dairy Queen.
I'll take care of myself, sir. This is fine.
Come on, no, this like, it's not like I'm bribing you. This is no, Dairy Queen, you know?
It's been tough to be the front runner, right? A lot of obligations, expectations on you. I want to go through a list. It's not going to be pleasant, I promise you.
Sure, no, okay.
But things that you've had to deal with in this campaign.
Yep.
Lucy Flores, before you even got in, your position on busing, your work with segregationist senators, whether China's a threat, your debate performances. I could keep going on and on and on. And on. What does it say that there are polls that show you still with a chance to win this thing? What do you think you've shown Democrats?
Well, I think, look, that coupled with what Trump has been doing, I think it's shown that I've been the only one having, until recently, having a lot of punches thrown at me across the board. And we talked about it in the very beginning. You know, I knew I would be the guy the day I announced had the target on my back because I'd be viewed as a front runner. And so everybody came at me. But virtually everything that's been thrown at me, none of it has stuck.
Then, Biden was chasing votes in Iowa ahead of the leadoff caucuses. While back in Washington, President Trump's impeachment trial was underway. Republicans defending the president tried to turn the focus on Biden and his son.
You know, Joe Biden got a little testy with a voter at one of his events in Iowa last week.
And no one has ever said it. Not
I didn't say you were doing anything wrong.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
Calling the man a liar, challenging him to a push-up contest, among other things, and falsely stating once again that nobody said there was anything wrong with his son's deal in Ukraine.
Biden told me then he didn't think those attacks would work.
Why not answer these charges more directly?
Well, first of all, there are no charges. It just allows for diversion to be had. And This is not about Hunter. It's not about me. No one, including the people around him, have said I've ever done anything wrong. I did my duty.
He also said he felt good about Iowa, but took a longer view of the road to the nomination.
Nothing happens here on Monday is going to end this campaign. I mean, I'd rather have an outright win, don't get me wrong. It's all about delegates, what happens here. Then we go into New Hampshire, and that's always the home base of whoever, between Warren and Bernie. I mean, New Hampshire's been getting their advertising for a long, long time as spillover. But then we go to South Carolina. I think South Carolina is a pretty significant. We go to Nevada. I think I'll do well in Nevada. And I think I have a real firewall in South Carolina. And then we go into the Super Tuesday states that have a significant number of minorities and African Americans running. I think I'm going to do fine. So.
Many doubted that prediction, especially after that fourth-place finish in Iowa.
It looks like a good night for Buttigieg. Looks like a good night for Sanders. What about Joe Biden, however?
This was a tough night for Joe Biden.
I am not going to sugarcoat it. We took a gut punch in Iowa. The whole process took a gut punch. But look, this isn't the first time in my life I've been knocked down.
Then fifth in New Hampshire.
We just heard from the first 2 of 50 states. 2 of them. Not all the nation.
But a second-place finish in Nevada set Biden up for a South Carolina comeback for the ages.
South Carolina!
Suddenly, momentum was on Biden's side.
And my buddy Jim Clyburn, you brought me back. It's a man of enormous integrity. Just days ago, the press and the pundits had declared this candidacy dead. Now, thanks to all of you, the heart of the Democratic Party, we just won, and we've won big because of you.
But what has made the difference in turning this campaign around? There's, as your husband said tonight, a lot of people who wanted to write off this campaign.
Absolutely, they wanted to write him off. But we're just getting started. We have a lot of other states, and here's our momentum. We're just getting started. We're ready to go.
His former rivals, one by one, took his side and helped power him to a Super Tuesday knockout.
Here they come. Joe Biden coming out.
So I'm here to report we are very much alive. And make no mistake about it, this campaign will send Donald Trump packing.
But trouble of a different sort loomed on the horizon.
Breaking news tonight, the urgent sickness warning at major U.S. airports. The CDC announcing immediate screenings for a new mystery virus from China.
The earlier we can detect this virus, the better we can understand it, and the better we can protect Americans from it.
That the coronavirus presents a public health emergency in the United States.
You mentioned the coronavirus. There's no one I've seen on the campaign trail spend more time shaking hands, taking pictures, put their arms around people than Joe Biden. Is there any part of you that worries about your own health, about the spread of an illness like this, and would it affect the way you campaign?
Well, look, we're listening to the scientists and at CDC, and so far they've not suggested anything different. Whatever the science dictates, I will do.
Just over a week later, after victories in Michigan, Missouri, Mississippi all but locked up the nomination, it was the pandemic bringing Biden's campaign to a sudden halt.
And we'll continue to assess and adjust how we conduct our campaign as we move forward and find new ways to share our message with the public while putting health and safety of the American people first, above everything else.
Adapting to a virtual campaign was a challenge for the Biden team. His campaign debuted a new home studio with some early glitches.
And in addition to that, we have to make sure that we are in a position that we are. Well, let me go to the second thing. I've spoken enough of it.
Can you maintain this advantage without campaigning in a traditional way, especially this fall when voters begin to really tune in?
Well, this is the most unusual campaign, I think, in modern history. In that, but I start off with the premise, Mike, that I'm going to follow the doc's orders, not just for me, but for the country. And that means that I am not going to be holding rallies. But you know me, I'd much rather be out there with people because that's where I get the greatest feel. I can get a sense of what by the look in their eyes, by the plaintive voices that they have, or what they're concerned about.
But there were other challenges too, from uniting the party.
We've got to make Trump a one-term president, and we need you in the White House. So I will do all that I can to see that happens, Joey.
Responding to the coronavirus.
Well, look, the American public is really strong and tough. The first thing we should do is listen to the scientists. Secondly, we should tell them the truth.
And a growing movement for racial justice.
We can't leave this moment thinking that we can once again turn away and do nothing. We can't do that this time. We just can't. The moment has come for our nation to deal with systemic racism.
The death of George Floyd added to the pressure facing Biden on another key decision: who to name as his vice presidential candidate. Biden considered a long list of contenders.
Is there anything you want to ask the Congresswoman while she's here?
Yes, I've asked her to be vice president. She said no.
But after weeks of speculation, turned to a former rival to make a historic choice.
And this morning, all across the nation, little girls woke up, especially little black and brown girls, who so often feel overlooked and undervalued in their communities. But today, just maybe, they're seeing themselves for the first time in a new way as the stuff of president and vice presidents.
With Senator Kamala Harris rounding out the Democratic ticket, the general election fight against President Trump was fully engaged.
I'm signing this because I'm in this race to win, and with that guy right there, and we're going to get it done.
It kicked off with a mostly virtual convention, reintroducing Biden to the country.
Hi, my name is Braden Harrington, and I'm 13 years old. And without Joe Biden, I wouldn't be talking to you today. About a few months ago, I met him in New Hampshire. He told me that we were members of the same club. We stutter.
And if you give him your cell phone number,
he's going to call it.
How do we know?
Because he's been that way our whole lives.
If you entrust me with the presidency, I will draw on the best of us, not the worst. I will be an ally of the light, not the darkness.
The Trump campaign focused as much on Biden's age as his policies.
You know, the rapidly rising I don't know.
As his sister, when you see those kinds of attacks on your brother, what does that make you think?
My brother, it's real simple. My brother stuttered. When he was a little boy, he couldn't string more than 3 words together at a time. But he was not going to be defined by a bully. And he built a backbone of steel, and he's not going to be defined by this bully.
The debates loomed as perhaps the biggest test.
You said you'll participate. Is there anything that could dissuade you from participating, and how have you begun to prepare?
Well, I've begun to prepare by going over what the president has said, the multiple lies he's told. What I'd love to have is a crawler at the bottom of the screen, a fact checker, when we speak. No, I'm looking forward to debating the president, and I'm going to lay out as clearly as I can what I think we have to do to bring this country back and build it back better. And I'm looking forward to the debate.
The first face-off was unlike any presidential debate we've ever seen.
You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you going to pack the court?
Make sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question.
Why wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question is, the question is,
Justice, radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe? Who's on your list?
Right, gentlemen, I think
this is so unprecedented.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
not going to give a list.
But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
to
specifically
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
Who would you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right-wing
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what, somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left. Because
what are your fears about the implications of the president's rhetoric? And do you have a message for the Proud Boys today?
Cease and desist. Cease and desist. The American people will decide who the next president of the United States will be, period. So I'm urging the American people, go out and vote.
The next debate called off when the president was diagnosed with coronavirus.
It's been a very interesting journey. I learned a lot about COVID. I learned it by really going to school. This is the real school. This isn't the let's read the book school. And I get it, and I understand it, and it's a very interesting thing, and I'm going to be letting you know about it.
My wife Jill and I prayed that they'll make a quick and full recovery. This is not a matter of politics. It's a bracing reminder to all of us that we have to take this virus seriously. It's not going away automatically.
Then one final face-off, setting the stage for the final sprint to Election Day.
The oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the deal. But
that's
you
a
can't
big
do
statement.
That. Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time.
And that's maybe the biggest statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because basically what he's saying is he is going to destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then
Ohio.
I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context, but the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions.
Election Day became Election Week.
And as we come up on the midnight hour, a big call now for President Trump in the state of Ohio. NBC News projects that Trump will win Ohio and take its 18 electoral votes.
It's kind of a jump ball at this moment.
Look, Hugh Hewitt said it. He said coin flip. I think that's where I'm at.
It's not my place or Donald Trump's place to declare who's won this election. That's the decision of the American people.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
The outcome is not certain at this hour, and that both candidates are very much in this race, so there's no reason to say anything other than that. Good morning. No decision 2020. Former Vice President Joe Biden has been elected President of the United States. He is President-elect Joseph Robinette Biden.
The former vice president waiting 4 nights before celebrating a victory 50 years in the making. I've covered Joe Biden a long time. I've heard him very often quote Irish poets, not because he's Irish, as he would say, but because they're the best poets. And there's a particular poem he's very fond of quoting, The Cure of Troy by Seamus Heaney, and I want to read a little bit from it because I think it's particularly relevant to this moment. History says, don't hope on this side of the grave, but then once in a lifetime, the longed-for
tidal wave of justice can rise up, and hope and history rhyme.
The delay of yesterday to today means that 48 years to the day that Joe Biden won his very first election to the United States Senate, an upset victory over a popular incumbent Republican, he is now the president-elect of the United States.
Now this campaign is over. What is the will of the people? What is our mandate? I believe it's this. Americans have called upon us to marshal the forces of decency, the forces of fairness, to marshal the forces of science and the forces of hope in the great battles of our time. The battle to control the virus, the battle to build prosperity, the battle to secure your family's health care, the battle to achieve racial justice and root out systemic racism in this country. And the battle to save our planet by getting climate under control. The battle to restore decency, defend democracy, and give everybody in this country a fair shot. That's all they're asking for, a fair shot.
After a long career, and a long campaign, the work for Joe Biden, in some ways, is only just beginning.
How do you expect to be able to work with Republicans when so many have thus far refused to even acknowledge your victory?
I think they understand that we have to come together. I think they're ready to unite, and I believe we can pull the country out of this bitter politics that we've seen for the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Biden's task now? A test of what he told me before the first votes were even cast, that he was the right person at the right moment.
The very things that I think are needed most right now in the country are not the very things that were needed 8 years ago, or 12 years ago, or 15, 20 years ago. But they're in my wheelhouse. It's reestablishing our place in the world in foreign policy and domestically bringing the country together. And they're the things that I think my record shows I've been pretty good at my whole life. And I think this has to be done. And so that's why we decided to run.
Let us be the nation that we know we can be. A nation united, a nation strengthened, a nation healed. The United States of America, ladies and gentlemen, there's never been anything we've tried we've not been able to do. So remember, as our grandpapa used to say when I walked out of his home when I was a kid up in Scranton, he said, "Joey, keep the faith." And our grandmother, when she was alive, she yelled, "No, Joey, spread it. Spread the faith. God love you all. May God bless America, and may God protect our troops." Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.